I'm Andrew Criss. I'm a founding partner with Borderless. We're a firm of 22 consultants working worldwide.
Andrew, you've placed many international executives over the years, and you have a great international career yourself. How do you describe an international executive? What makes somebody like that stand out?
Somebody who has taken an early opportunity to work internationally, and I don't mean just necessarily travel, but lived and worked in different countries. So you understand the fundamentals of what makes countries different and understand how to manage across cultures. That for me is absolute key.
There's a difference, isn't there, between people who have sort of had an international responsibility, but maybe been based in their home country, versus somebody who is picked up and relocated and actually lived in a different environment, maybe speaking a different language or something like
Yeah,
that.
a very big difference. Parachuting into a country from time to time does not make you an international executive. It gives you good experience, there's nothing wrong with that. But to actually live and work somewhere else, totally different story.
If you are recruiting people for very senior positions, how important is it for my career, if I'm an up-and-coming executive, how important is it in my career to go and get that international experience?
It's critical, and do it as early as you can. The earlier you do it through your foundation years, first you get a taste for it and you want to do it again. And by definition, all of the big jobs in the world today, in the vast majority of industries, are truly international. And having those skills from real life experience, living and working, is the key.
So if I'm starting my career, if I'm at an early stage in my career, the ideal thing maybe is to get that international experience early on, because I suppose it will give me breadth and greater responsibility as well.
Yes, it will. Absolutely.
But is it ever too late? Is this something that you could say, if you haven't done it by the time you're 40 or whatever, then forget it? Or how do you see that?
Well, it's not a question of ageism. It's a question of how much experience you can imbibe in a sufficient space of time. And if you've not lived and worked outside your country, of your original country, going into your 30s, it's unlikely you're going to gather enough experience to really be able to do this well. Lots of people will argue the opposite, but experience tells us that if you've not done this early in your career, you're going to miss out.
So I grew up internationally. I was fortunate, my father was working abroad, so we got that different language and different cultural experience early on.
Yeah.
What was your own experience?
Well, I've lived and worked in 6 countries, and I was fortunate to have that opportunity very early on in life. And that makes an enormous difference. So I want you to understand, I'm not trying to say everybody must be like me. There are many ways to do this. But getting this experience early and getting into the formative years, and by the way, finding out if that's good for you or not. I mean, some people will tell you, no, this isn't good for me, it's not good for my family, I'm not going to do this again. But that's a decision you can only take once you've tried.
I mean, my advice to young people who are at an early stage in their career would be go and do it now before you have children at school age and things like that, before it gets more complicated.
Well, it makes it more complicated, by the way, more expensive for your employer too. And that's, these days, is becoming much more of a difficult question to answer.